Hi, and welcome to the Gender Speaker live show. Slowly learning how to get together with this software. So that was my today's work, was putting in a little intro video there. We'll take that back out, but yes, it's all working bit by bit. I've got to keep finding different places for where to go. Today, talking about gender identity. Yesterday, talked about gender. I noticed I tend to move backwards and forwards rather a lot on the screen, so I'm going to try not to do that today. It's going to be a challenge because I get emotional and enthusiastic about this topic. It's a topic I've been looking at and working with most of my life. But as some of you may know, I did a master's degree back in 2004-05, which was the result of me suddenly discovering that changing gender meant nobody really wanted to continue to employ me, certainly not the financial services and tech industry where I'd been working before. And the reason for me changing gender was actually all about the whole gender identity issue. Back then, before 2015, growing up with a discomfort over this match between the sex assigned at birth and my gender, my sense of gender, that was called a gender identity disorder. A gender identity is what goes on in the head. The sort of grandfather of transgender issues is a man called Magnus Hirschfeld, and he back in 100 years ago now. I've just noticed I've got something playing all sorts of notifications here. Back in 1910, he wrote a book which introduced the idea of transvestism, and then he started to work on transsexualism, which he thought was where people actually wanted to not just dress in the manner of the other gender, but to actually be the other gender, to completely and totally change from one part of the binary to another. And that was at a time when, men and women were very, very different. And I'm going to look through this series of general chats over this month that at some of the older laws, in Elizabethan times, it was illegal for women to dress as men. And if they did, they would get caught. If they got caught, they'd end up in prison. But gender identity issues, it's caused so much confusion because we get all sorts of complications over terminology. Is it sex change? Well, you can't totally change sex. You can't change your chromosomes. You can't change fundamental features. Once testosterone has done its work, it's very, very difficult to change your voice. Some people achieve it quite well, but I was never able to, and it didn't really worry me. So we're changing gender. We're changing the way in which people see us. I want to walk down the street, and I don't want people laughing and giggling and thinking, oh my God, there's a bloke in a dress. So I want to be able to walk down the street and pass. And that's because in my head, from a very early age, from around about 6 years old, it's my earliest recollection of being uncomfortable with the fact that I was a boy. In fact, as I look back and look at things that happened in my childhood, there was evidence even before that that I wasn't really growing up the typical boy. Now, this was in a time when homosexuality was illegal, huge amount of pressure for people to conform. Any boys that expressed femininity, had a pretty tough time. Not easy for a lot of them now, but so gender identity is this thing inside. Now, what Hirschfeld felt was he'd looked at some people who were intersex. Now, we're going to look at intersex specifically at some point, but intersex is where you're born and your physical body isn't clearly male or female, indeterminate. And there are lots of different conditions. It might be the fact that you produce too much testosterone. We've seen this with the South African runner, and a number of people have known to be intersex because they've had an overproduction of testosterone, but they're actually female. I have a friend who went for surgery, transitioning from male to female, and when the doctor said, I want to do some exploratory work because I'm not sure about something. And after that exploratory surgery, said, right, you're 95% female. How you actually manage to be a father of children is almost beyond me, because your body is, mostly female. He had a full, undeveloped female reproductive system, and yet he was still able to produce children. So there is so much we don't know about what happens with the body. So much. Intersex conditions, we don't know how many. Everybody says, oh, it's very, very small, but then nobody actually talks about it. It's not a topic which people don't want everybody to know that they were born intersex. So there's another challenge. So physically, we can see that if the genitals haven't produced and formed in the way that we expect, you can see that. But what seems to happen is that during fetal development, the washes of testosterone, which are supposed to come at certain times, if it's a male fetus, if a baby has testicles, it produces testosterone, which starts to then hardwire the brain to be more male than female. Now, oh God, we get into deep waters here. And it's what's interesting is there a difference between a male brain and a female brain? Well, some people are saying, no, we can prove it's not. Other people say, yes, we can prove there's a difference between the two. And recently what I've seen is the anti-trans campaigners. One person is saying there is definitely a difference between female and male brain, and they've used that as an argument against trans. And somebody else has said, no, I've done the research. There's definitely no difference between a male and female brain. And they've used that as an argument against trans. So I think there is a difference. It's minute, microscopical differences. And it's not about, women have women's brains, men have, that if you get testosterone or you don't get enough testosterone during fetal development, then the brain will generally default to female. If you get too much testosterone, it will tend to be masculinized. So we see women who are quite masculine, some women who are very masculine in their appearance, some men who are very feminine in their appearance, some who are in between. There is no right and wrong, is there? All of this produces the variations of human beings, these wonderful differences that make up this rainbow of human existence. And some of us simply have a more female approach. Now, does that mean we should be female? That's the big debate going on at the moment. Should we go through transition and surgery? Unfortunately, we have a society that says, no, you have to be male or you have to be female. And if you don't fully become, to all appearances, female, then we get discriminated against. All sorts of issues over which bathroom you should use and whether you're entitled to access female space. Even if you have surgery, that's being challenged. So we have got a lot has got to be done in terms of social acceptance of the fact that people don't all grow up with this sense of gender identity, clearly male, clearly female. By the time we're 2 or 3 years old, honestly, kids have got it. They know that mummies have babies. They know that mummies do the cleaning. They know that daddies go out to work. And I know that lots of people don't conform to that now, but if you interview kids, and I've got a few videos, I might pull one up sometime, that show that by 3 years old, kids have got gender. And if it's not comfortable for them, if they're not feeling that's right, then they're starting to display gender identity disorder in childhood. And that's the point at which parents are now struggling with what do they do? How do they deal with that? And that's a big topic I want to tackle on another day. But today I just want to leave you with this thought. That's it. That's what's going on. It's gender identity is that sense of who we are. It seems to be the result of how much or how little testosterone we get in our brain, which affects and means that sometimes the brain isn't in tune with the physical body as it emerges. Anyway, I'm going to be doing lots more. I've got a whole workshop where you can learn all about this and how to engage trans and non-binary people more effectively when they're in the workplace. Trans and non-binary work inclusion workshop. You'll find it on Eventbrite. I'm going to put the details into the links here. Still struggling to get myself through that. But Wednesday and Thursday next week, Wednesday or Thursday. And other than that, I shall be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. Looking at another aspect of the whole issue of gender. For now, great to see you. And let's see if we can sign out with that that video that I